Hello and welcome to another episode of Tommy's Tractors. Today we're going to do a grease oil and filter on this Max 26 XLT. This is a hydrostatic. It's very similar for the gear drive if you have that. There's a couple of things that are different as far as the hydrostatic, the transmission fill and check, but I'll show you what that is. I'll show you where all the points of interest are for routine maintenance and for your more serious maintenance endeavors. So let's start by, let me show you how you open the hood on this. There's a little orange T-handle right here, and when you pull that down it'll release the hood and then it'll just pop up. When you want to close it, you just push this here and then get down pretty close and then drop it and it will latch. Alright, so here's what we're going to need. First thing, you should have your owner's manual, and I've gone ahead and wrote the part number down, which is MAM0117 is your oil filter. You need a 17 millimeter wrench for the drain plug, and then it takes 3.9 quarts, so probably a little bit less than that with the filter change because we never get it all out, but we'll do the best we can. And I got a grease gun, some gloves if you want them, paper towels, oil, and filter. Something to mark the filter with so you can put the date and the hours you changed it. And then these are kind of handy to get the old filter off. You just use that with a socket wrench. Right on it now, it's easier than once you put it on. So 312.4 hours, and today is 3/12/25. This makes it easy, so if you don't have records, you can just take a peek at it and be like, oh, I probably ought to change it because I didn't do it for 100 hours, and you wanted the interval on these Max 26s is every 100 hours, 50 hours for your first interval, but then 100 hours after that. So if you're sitting on the tractor on the right side down here, right there is your drain plug, and so 17 millimeter. I like these socket ones because it's really easy to get it off down there. And your oil fill is going to be up here in the front right there. The filter for this it's in behind. We'll take you down there. I'll show you where that is. So it's kind of hard with the loader on it, but your filter is in here behind these fuel lines and your throttle. So there's your filter, and then your dipstick is right there, and sometimes it's really hard to put it back in because you can't see with your hand in there, and there's no place to really see, so you kind of have to feel for it. Anyway, the dipstick is right to the left of the filter, and it doesn't have a color on it. Like sometimes you'll have like a yellow, oftentimes it's got a yellow cover on the handle. This one doesn't, it was just painted black, so I've worn the paint off it, so it's kind of silver now from use, but that's where it is. So the first thing we'll do is we'll go ahead and pop the drain plug off. I usually run the tractor for a couple minutes first to make sure it warms up, and you'll get a little bit better drainage if you do that. So while that's still draining a little bit, we'll go ahead and put the filter on. And I know I see sometimes people try to find out what the cheapest filter they can find instead of buying one from the dealer. And this was $13 for a Mahindra filter at the dealership. So I don't understand why people go spend $30,000-$40,000 on a tractor and then go try to find another filter so they can save 50 cents. So if you got a dealership close by, I would recommend supporting your local dealer and get your filters there. There's dealers online you can get it from, and maybe you don't have a Mahindra dealer nearby. Maybe you can call them and have it shipped them to you. I don't know, but personally, I always go to the dealership and get the filters. And so another benefit of that is, I'm always going in. They know who I am, and because I've gone in there a bunch of times, if I ever have issues, they usually will help me out. They've fixed a lot of stuff for me free of charge over the years. So if you've got a good dealership that does stuff like that, I would recommend that you support them, because otherwise, if you just buy the tractor and they never see you, and you buy filters or oil from somewhere else and you don't really keep good records, especially it makes it difficult. So the dealership may say that you didn't change the oil in it, because inherently manufacturers don't want to pay warranties. So anything you can do to verify. So I would recommend, if you don't get your stuff from the dealership, at least keep good records, keep your receipts of the oil filters and the oil that you bought, and then make sure you write down in your record book when you did it, how many hours, etc., and keep your receipts. And then that's the second best thing. But again, I recommend you support your dealership. So here's our little filter, and because this is a Mitsubishi, this whole tractor is a Mitsubishi tractor, they are Mitsubishi filters. So if you can find the part number for this, which is MAM0117, sometimes you can find just the Mitsubishi equivalent, which is just as good. It's just not painted black. And sometimes the dealer won't actually have the Mahindra one. Sometimes they might just have the Mitsubishi stuff. I've seen that too. Just make sure when you put your plug on, you tighten it up as best you can. You can use a torque wrench if you want to. And I've done hundreds of oil changes in my life, and I've not one time used a torque wrench to torque the plug on. But just get it on, as tight as you can with your wrench, and you'll probably be all right. keep an eye on it. You're going to check it anyway. You're going to start your tractor up. You're going to run it for a couple minutes, check for leaks, and then you got to run it again a little bit later and do the same thing. So it's handy. These tractors take 3.9 quarts, and fortunately a gallon jug is 4 quarts. So we're going to put most of this in there. Hard part is getting this dumped in without getting it all over the tractor. It's easier to underfill it than it is to overfill it. And what I mean by that, if you overfill it, you got to get oil out. If you underfill it, you just add some more. It's actually worse for your machine if you overfill it. It's bad for the seals and crofts. So we'll let that go in. Let's see. There's probably about a quart left. We'll go with that for a minute and see what it looks like. So these oil filters, these ones luckily have hash mark in it, so you can see the little bite, that's your low, and then you got another bite here where your full is. Sometimes they just have these little lines, it's hard to see when the sun's out. Fortunately, you got these 2 little bite marks taken out of it. And again, it's kind of hard to find where it goes because you can't get in there very well, so you kind of got to feel around a little bit. That's the one thing I don't like, is it's hard to find out where your filter drain plug goes, your dipstick goes. So you can't see it, but it's right here, right to the left, and it's up a little bit higher than you think. And then your dipstick will catch on pretty much everything and trying to stick it in there. So we'll leave it in there for a minute or two while the rest of the oil finds its way down. What you don't want to do is wipe it off while you're taking it out, it's hard to get to it. So let's see. Problem is that people who design these don't work on them. It should be a prerequisite that you have to be a mechanic before you can be an engineer. At least spend some time on the shop floor. Looks like we could use a little bit more, because when I start it up, we're going to end up putting oil in the filter too. So there we are, right there. You can see it's already kind of polluted just because I couldn't get all the oil out. There's your check oil light. So it's on, so we want to check around our filter in there and check around your plug. I don't see any leaks. The first few times you run it, you're going to have to do an oil change. Just keep an eye on it. You're going to obviously check your oil every time you run it anyway. Every time you start it, you should be checking the oil first. So because it's pressurized lubrication, your dipstick's going to have oil all over the place when you first start it up. So when you check your oil, you're going to obviously take it out, clean it, put it back in. There we are. Didn't move much. So halfway through, that's perfect. And like I said, next time I run this tractor, first thing I'll do is check the oil, and I'll also check the ground underneath where I parked it and make sure there's no oil on the ground. That's your best indicator of if you have a leak or not. Also check different places on the block where around the filter, because if you got a little leak, it might spray it out somewhere. You might get a little weep if it's not done right, and then check around your... Alright, so next thing we'll do is we'll go do all the grease fittings on this. So we've made sure we got our cap on good, fill, and then go ahead and close this up. And the way you close this is you push this little black thing right here, and you'll feel it catch, release, and then just drop it. I'm going to show you where the brake pedal grease fittings are. I just greased these, so I'm not going to do it today, but I'll show you exactly where they are. There's one here, there's another one right there, and then there's 2 more on the other side in the exact same pedal. I just did the front end also. There's 4. You have 1 up under each one of these right here, this bushing. There's 1 there, you have 1 there, and then you have 2 more on the other side. And strangely, this tractor does not have 1 on the pivot. The front axle pivot, there's not a grease fitting there. Here's the other side. You can see 1 at the end of the tie rod, and then you've got 1 at the bottom, right under the tie rod. On your loader, each side you've got 1 here, 1 here. There's 1 up under here. So every place there's a piston and a joint, you've got a grease fitting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on each. This is what I get it by the case at the John Deere dealer. It's just lithium grease, multi-purpose. It's PT507. Like I said, I buy it by the case. And if you look in the Mahindra manual, it tells you that you can use a whole bunch of different oils. Shell Rotella is one of them. So even though I like to go visit the dealer and get my oil there, at some point I may buy it from, a different... So with your front axle, right down here is your drain for each side. Here's your fill. There's a check on each side. There's a check right here. So if you take this out, or almost out, you should get a little bit of a weep, and that lets you know that you've got the right level. And down bottom, down here is your drain. It's the same on both sides. This right here is your check. Here's your fill. With a gear drive, there's a dipstick. Like it looks like this, but it's a dipstick. Hydrostatic transmission filter is here, and this is on the left side of the tractor. If you're sitting on it, this is also the hydraulic system for the tractor itself. Looking underneath the tractor, here's your main drain, and then you've got 2 more. 1 right here, 1 right here, and then 1 right there on the other side. If you ever get off your tractor when it's running and there's an issue with it not starting again, and you've checked all your PTO and your seat switch, there's another little button right here. This is on the right side if you're looking underneath it, and sometimes you might get a stick or something that'll unplug it or get jammed in here. So that's the first thing you need to do after you've checked your PTO select lever and your seat switch and such. Always, if I can, buy my filters from the dealer. I kind of want to just go visit the dealer for $13. I don't feel like I'm getting taken. And so I get the oil filter, and I also get a fuel filter. So in one of these other coming up episodes, we'll change the fuel filter, but not today because I've got another video to make, and I think you'll like this one. So I appreciate you hanging out with me this afternoon. I hope you have a great day, and I'll talk to you next time.